Hey guys, it's Danny. Welcome to another episode from our Orchid Care for Beginners series. Today, as promised, we're going to talk all about crown rot. Now, crown rot is an ailment which affects mainly monopodial orchids such as Phalaenopsis and Vandas, but even sympodials that have a crown can be affected, such as slippers. And sadly, it happens more often than it should because it is 100% preventable. So today I'm going to tell you what it is and why it happens so we know how to prevent it, but also how I personally treat it with pretty much household things. Today's video, together with our entire Orchid Care for Beginners series, is sponsored, of course, by rePotme.com, who offers you everything you could possibly need to properly take care of your orchid. From pots to potting mixes, fertilizers, and all sorts of accessories, they really do have everything you need. I myself have been using many of their products even before our collaboration, and I still do use them to this day, so I'll link you down below to my absolute favorite products. And of course, I'll link you to their website. Feel free to check them out at any time. And with that said, let's just start with the beginning. What is crown rot? Crown rot, like the name suggests, is an ailment of the crown. As some of you might know, Phalaenopsis orchids produce these beautiful leaves which grow opposite to each other. They also produce roots and they produce a central stem. The very top of this stem, where new leaves always sprout, that is the crown of the orchid. And crown rot happens right here. Rotting of this crown implies severe damage to that growth point. If the damage is extensive enough, the orchid cannot produce any more leaves, so pretty much it will not be able to grow anymore. What's worse though is that the rot itself implies there might be an active infection which can travel downwards in the stem, affecting more and more of the axis of the orchid until the roots. And if it reaches the roots and completely destroys the entire stem, the orchid is pretty much done for. There is nothing we can do to save it. So as you can see, crown rot is really nothing to joke around about. And while it can be treated, and in very, very rare cases, the orchids themselves can fight against it and stop it, most of the times in our homes, we don't notice it in time, or we just continue to do the things that promote it, and in the end, we end up with a completely dead orchid. Some signs that an orchid might have crown rot is a loss of leaves at the very top, so the newest leaves. Oldest leaves, after a while, they can yellow and fall. Maybe one or two every year or two is absolutely normal. However, if top leaves start to yellow and fall, that is not normal, and almost 100% of the times it means crown rot or an infection of the crown. We're starting to lose leaves at the very top one by one, and in the end, if we are unlucky, we're gonna lose the entire stem and the entire orchid. Sometimes the roots might still remain green, but if there's no stem above, in a short while, even those roots will start to yellow and just become mush, and the orchid will be done. Doesn't sound very pleasant, does it? Well, it's not. So the absolute very best thing we can do is prevent it. As I was saying, crown rot is 100% preventable. In order to prevent it, we need to know what causes it. And well, most often than not, in cultivation in our homes, crown rot is caused by water left in the very crown of the orchid. This pool of water, if it doesn't evaporate fast enough, will accumulate pathogens. And being that the crown is quite a tender part of the orchid, this is where new leaves start, and it also has this funnel shape, it is very susceptible to being affected by pathogens. The longer that pool of water sits there without evaporation or removal, the more the chances of crown rot increase in cultivation. Now, I'm sure many of you will wonder, well, what happens when it rains? Naturally, these orchids are subjected to rain in their natural habitat, right? That is absolutely correct. However, what's not natural at all is how we typically grow them in our homes. Let's start with the position. And by the way, this is an orchid that I just purchased. It didn't have a chance to grow in my room. I didn't even repot it. So this is how typically you find them in shops, growing upright. Well, Phalaenopsis orchids don't grow upright naturally. A more natural appearance for a Phalaenopsis looks something like this, even though not even this one is 100% identically tilted to how it would in nature. Naturally, Phalaenopsis have a tendency to lean forward or towards the light source. And the more you have your Phalaenopsis, the more you will observe that it will not continue to grow upright, but rather lean to one side, typically to the side where your window is. And that is absolutely normal. Phalaenopsis orchids are epiphytic orchids, which grow attached to tree trunks naturally. So their position will look more like this. The leaves will tilt to one side, and rather than being aligned like in a straight line, the tips of their leaves will likely point downwards. And it's easy to see how in this situation, water that might accumulate simply doesn't pull in the crown. It just flows off of the orchid. That is a natural adaptation that Phalaenopsis orchids have in order to avoid pooling of water and accumulation of pathogens. Some species, like the one that I'm showing you here, which is a Gigantea, have a natural sheen to their leaves. If we put a water droplet on the leaves, it will just be completely repelled. With the hybrids that we find in flower shops, this trait doesn't necessarily exist anymore. Not all species of Phalaenopsis have this sheen, but some of them actually do, and this is just another layer of protection against crown rot. But most importantly, there is always a constant breeze and there's always fresh air. While in our homes, particularly if the temperatures outside might be too low, we don't really refresh the air as much as we should. Bottom line, a Phalaenopsis in the living room simply does not behave in the same way as a Phalaenopsis in the wild. And there are many reasons for that, starting with hybridization and loss of traits, ending with the way we display this orchid. So prevention is quite easy, and I think it's pretty clear. As long as we avoid water in the crown of orchids, we will be much safer from crown rot. If ever we put a droplet of water in the crown, that is absolutely fine. We can just dab it with a paper napkin and that should be okay. Also try to avoid water left in between the leaves. This can lead to stem rot, which is a very similar ailment that happens maybe somewhere in the middle, not at the top, but has the same effect. Whatever the case might be, water in the stem and crown of Phalaenopsis orchids and monopodial orchids is not good in cultivation and should be avoided at all costs. Otherwise, we might risk losing the entire orchid if we don't know what to do about it. And speaking of, let's talk about what we can do if indeed we are dealing with crown rot. So my way of going about things has actually remained the same for the past 9 years or so when I first made my first tutorial on crown rot. So don't check it out because it's cringy. I was filming with my phone back then. Pretty much what I like to do is first try to eliminate the pathogens affecting the crown. And a very good substance that works against fungal spores and bacteria and is quite safe for orchids is hydrogen peroxide 3%. Hydrogen peroxide is a sanitizing solution that you can find most likely in pharmacies. In my region, I also find it at the supermarket. I even saw it for sale on Amazon or eBay, so online places. There are many places in which you can find it. I would not suggest you use a concentration higher than 3%, and if you do have higher concentrations, just dilute them. A little side note here, the peroxide used for hair painting, that's not good. Do not use that. What you want is this liquid solution sold in pharmacies. I like to pour the hydrogen peroxide in a spray bottle, and what I do is go right in the crown and spray the crown. Yes, this will create a pool of liquid or water, but we're gonna remove it, don't worry. So first and foremost, what the hydrogen peroxide will do is eliminate most of the pathogens in the area and hopefully attack a little bit the layer of cells that are exposed. Hydrogen peroxide reacts with exposed cells. And since damaged crowns actually have a destroyed or damaged cuticle, which is the barrier protecting the orchid, chances are the hydrogen peroxide can actually go directly to the tissue and damage a layer of tissue. And this is good because that tissue is either not alive anymore or is sick. So we want to pretty much destroy a layer of tissue just to destroy the entire infection. So I like to leave the pool of water for a few minutes, 2-3 minutes to act. After the initial reaction, what you will have left is just water and oxygen, which will be released in the air. And what we don't want to have is a pool of water in the crown again. So what we need to do is get a paper towel and completely remove all of the left water or hydrogen peroxide. Do the best job you can do, but you will not be able to completely dry the crown. So what I suggest you do is let it dry a little bit for maybe 10 minutes or so. If you have a little fan, just to place it near the orchid to move the air and help with evaporation, that would be ideal. So dry the crown as best as you can, and afterwards, what I like to do is add a layer of ground cinnamon directly in the crown. You can find cinnamon at the supermarkets. rePotme has cinnamon as well. It's not special cinnamon, it's the ground thing you put in cookies, and it works great. What cinnamon does is create a bit of a crust on that exposed tissue, which will act as a barrier against pathogens. It will also help with dehydrating or drying a layer of tissue, which is not alive anyway. But once it's dry, there is no way pathogens can enter the orchid, and this is what we want. Now, there are some sources that say cinnamon has some antibacterial, antimicrobial properties. I am not sure about that. I'm not a scientist, and I cannot really vouch for such properties, but I can vouch for the fact that it does absolutely help wounds on plants heal. I actually use it even if I have to cut a portion of the leaf. And indeed, it does create a really nice crust, quote unquote, and I have far less reinfection than if I wouldn't use it. Now, there will be some sources that say that cinnamon repels water. And well, initially it does, because cinnamon is ground bark. And if you know bark, you know that, yeah, initially it does repel water, it doesn't get wet. But if you leave it in water long enough, you also know that it does start to absorb water, it does get wet. The water does seep in the structures, and in the end, that's exactly what happens with the cinnamon as well. It gets swollen because it absorbs a little bit of the juices inside the leaf, inside the crown. And this is what we want. We want a layer of dried material that will act as a barrier against other pathogens. So with this technique, what I'm hoping to achieve is elimination of pathogens from the crown and the surrounding area, and also creating a fresh new barrier as fast as possible so that other pathogens do not enter the orchid. I'll have to tell you that chances of success will highly depend on how advanced the issue is. The more you let this advance downwards, the harder it will be to treat. You will notice that more and more leaves will start to fall, and if that happens, chances of you saving the orchid will decrease exponentially. But don't give up, try to do this treatment, and I really do hope you will manage to treat it. But as I was saying, prevention is much, much better than treatment. We are dealing with live things. We cannot predict how they will evolve and how they will react. It also depends on how strong your orchid is. If you're already dealing with a pretty sickly orchid, maybe a dehydrated orchid, chances decrease yet again. So obviously the best thing to do is to try to avoid it in the first place, because it's just so easy. But I hope now that if you are dealing with crown rot, you will at least have an idea of how to try and save it. It's not 100% guaranteed that it will work, but for me, it did work in the past. So this is why I'm sharing it with you, because I really hope it will work for you as well. If your treatment worked, your orchid will stop losing leaves from the top. Maybe you will lose one more leaf, but then it will stop. In the overwhelming majority of cases, brand new leaves will not grow from the crown. The crown will be completely destroyed, but the idea was not to heal the crown and revert it to its original self, but to stop the infection. What the orchid will do next, most probably, is create a keiki, since it cannot continue to grow from the very top. If your orchid has spikes, it might try to produce a keiki from one of the spikes. If it doesn't have spikes, or if it simply doesn't want to, it can start to create a keiki from the base, like in this case. Basal keikis are a way for the orchid to continue existing. So what you can do at some point is completely separate the basal keiki, pot it in a separate pot, and grow it as another orchid. the mother plant will in time just wither off since it cannot grow anymore. It can actually produce even more keikis if it has available spaces and energy, but at some point the original mother plant will cease to exist after a few years. But you will enjoy the keikis, which will look identical to the mother plant. If you don't know how to separate keikis, I actually do have a video on it, just check the description down below. So after it produces roots, you can definitely separate it. Now, just because you happen to leave water in the crown once, twice, or whatever, doesn't mean you'll automatically have crown rot. Obviously not. Crown rot is more prevalent in cooler seasons or when temperatures are lower in your growing room. It's also more prevalent when fresh new leaves start to grow, also when you have a pest infestation, and a few other instances which simply favorize that pool of water just staying there for longer, or the air not being refreshed enough, or air movement being impaired by something, and so on and so forth. If you're growing your orchids outside, you might never actually get crown rot, even if you keep them upright. But I cannot guarantee to that because each environment again is different. And again, maybe you have some pests that are grazing on the crown, so even outside where water evaporates because of the wind and warm temperatures, you might still have some issues because of those pests. One thing that happens in nature and we don't want to happen in our living rooms or growing areas is natural selection. Some orchids will simply not be as resilient as others, but we still want to grow all of them. We do not want to grow only the strong ones, right? So don't freak out and don't worry if you leave water in the crown. Just try to avoid it from now on if you think you have those conditions that can favorize crown rot. So that is about it, short and sweet today, but I really wanted to go through what causes crown rot, how to spot crown rot and how to prevent it, not just the treatment, because the treatment is not 100% efficient. And if you're wondering if you can actually work with fungicides, yes, you can absolutely do so. But again, fungicides do still use water as a dilution medium. So you still need to be careful because after they act, you will still have that pool of water there. And I personally don't like to use toxic fungicides because they are toxic, because I have birds in my grow room, and because I do spend a lot of time here and I just don't want to breathe in all sorts of weird vapor. I like to work with much friendlier products, as you can see. So this is why my personal treatment involves pretty much household things that are rather affordable and you do not need a prescription for. So again, I hope this will work out for you. Let me know your stories down below. Did you try this treatment? Did it work for you? How did it go? I really hope it goes well. And with that said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you rePotme for sponsoring yet another episode from our wonderful series for beginners. If you like to stay in touch with me on social media, just follow me. I'm at MissOrchidGirl pretty much everywhere. Check out my shorts channel if you don't have time for seminars. But most importantly, do subscribe to this channel because I post multiple times a week, so you'll stay up to date the moment that I post something new. And with that said, I'll see you next time. Bye!